So there's Bill.
All right. It is 5:58 on my computer. Someone else's computer might be slightly off, but
It's 6 o'clock here.
Yeah, 6
Okay.
o'clock over
6
here.
o'clock.
I'd like to call the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District Board meeting to order, Thursday, January 19th. And I'd like to start with introductions of board members, and I'll call you by name as I see you on the screen. Judd?
Judd Markowski, resident of Bridgeport and Workforce Investment Board member. Yes, thank you.
Nick?
Nick Colston, in from Shoreham, representing ACSD.
Steve? Rooney?
Steve Rennie from Starksboro, representing MAUSD.
Kim?
Kim Ferner from New Haven. I'm the Community at Large member from the Mount Abraham School District, and I'm also the vice chairperson.
Christina?
Hi, Christina Macklin, Addison Northwest School District representative from North Ferrisburg.
Bill?
He's muted. He may be.
Bill? Bill Biederman is, I believe, logging in from Ireland or on his way to Ireland. And he is the Workforce Investment Board member. He lives, I believe, in Middlebury still. In the room, Steve O.
Steve Orzak, I live in Middlebury, representing ACSD.
Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany Love, a Middlebury resident, and I'm a local board member.
And I'm Suzanne Buck. I'm from ACSD and I'm the board chair. And then for administrators, Tim.
Tim Williams, interim superintendent, director.
And then is that Mark sitting next to you?
Yep. Mark Bouvier, interim business manager.
Jay.
Jay Stetzel, assistant director.
Therese.
Patrice Alexander, administrative assistant.
And Linda.
Linda Barrett, clerk.
May I have, there's nobody online and I don't see anybody else in the room. Is that correct?
That is correct.
No.
There are 3 public here as well.
Okay. Can someone read their names, please?
Brenda Logie, Kelly Mills, and Alti Danforth.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
A motion.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Does any of our guests, would they like to make a comment? Or are you just here observing tonight? Please raise your hand, your Zoom hand, if you want to make a comment.
We're not seeing any hands, Suzanne.
Okay, then we'll continue on. Correspondence, there's 2 listed there, and then I have a 3rd here. So, does somebody want to read those pieces of correspondence, please?
There's a $505 donation from Naylor and Green Construction for the Construction Technology Program, cash donation. And there's a materials donation from Goodrow Lumber to the Construction Technology Program.
Thank you. And then the piece that I received says, Dear Mrs. Suzanne Buck, PAH Art STD Board Chair. I'm writing to commend the board for contracting services with McPherson and Jacobson LLC for the superintendent director search. As a 27-year employee of the school district, I have worked with several superintendents, directors. It is essential for the individual in this role to be charismatic, collaborative, and above all, connected with students, instructors, staff, board members, partner schools, families, and the Addison County business community. Recruitment of individuals with such an array of expertise in their toolbox is nothing short of challenging. Interviews for the finalists were conducted last week by Dr. Judy Sclair-Stein from McPherson and Jacobson LLC. Dr. Sclair-Stein competently and professionally managed 3 days of interviews with 5 distinct cohorts: students, parents, business professionals, teachers, and board members. The process was rigorous, well organized, and conducted with integrity. She brought forward a top-shelf pool of candidates. As a member of the teacher cohort, I felt that my voice, opinions, and impressions were valued. I came away each day feeling hopeful and energized at the thought of being part of hiring the next leader of the Patricia A. Hannaford Career Center. Additionally, 3 of my students were selected to participate in the student group. Through this experience, they witnessed professionalism and organization through a wider lens modeled by Dr. Stein's finesse in orchestrating the event. Likewise, they felt their voices had impact on deciding the most suitable candidate. Most young adults are not afforded such opportunities as stakeholders in organizations, but those at the Patricia A. Hannaford Career Center do. Such an involvement left lasting impressions on our students. Thank you very much for valuing the stakeholders associated with and employed by the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional School District, contracting with McPherson and Jacobson LLC. By placing this imperative work in competent hands, you've demonstrated your commitment to a brighter future for our school. Sincerely, Kelly Mills, Instructor, Sustainable Ag.
Nice.
Moving on, in the consent agenda, we approved the minutes and such. Was there, I'm hoping that there was no issue with the minutes, so that, no? Nick, could you read the accounts?
Yep. So these are expenditures for December. $91,780 for the energy project. General fund, $139,453. Adult education, $1,090. Enterprise revolving fund, $5,372. Student activities, $501. And 2 payrolls. One for December the 9th for $87,739, and one for December 23 for $102,506. That's it.
Great, thank you. And again, the offer still stands to any board members that want to come join us in our learning experience as we review all of the bills and do a final sign-off as is required. Feel free to reach out and offer some time. We're more than willing to add more people into our mix.
Well, I've done it once. I'm willing to do it again if needed.
Okay. Did you learn anything the first time, Tiffany?
Yes, I was so glad that you went before me because it helped me figure out what I was looking at. So, yes.
Well, Nick and I both ended up out there at the exact same time today, so we were tag teaming.
Okay.
Next on our agenda is our action agenda. The first piece is we need to approve the 2 donations, the $505 from Naylor and Breen, and then the materials from Goodrow Lumber. May I have a motion to, you may do a motion to accept both at the same time, or just do one at a time, whatever the board's fit.
I move that we accept both of these donations, both from Naylor Breen and from Goodrow Lumber.
I second.
I second.
I think that was Tiffany. They got in slightly ahead of you, Steve. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the donations from Naylor Breen and Goodrow. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see any hands in the Career Center room, and I don't see any online. So proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. We'll move on to policy 2.3, the financial condition and activity quarterly. Mark, is that you tonight?
I guess so. It is in your agenda, and maybe, I know you have a long agenda this evening, and I don't want to go over things that you feel that may not be necessary. So I think I may say, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. I think one piece I'd like to point out is that our line of credit that gets us through the fall until our assessments arrive has been completely paid off as of December 19th. So we are done with that until there's a need in the spring possibly. But everything is looking good. There are no violations. We have settled all our own debts in a timely manner. And we made one purchase exceeding $5,000. That was out of the BRF fund for right next door of the cooling system that went into the server room. That was the only expenditure that exceeded the threshold that's been established in your policy governance. So unless there are questions, that's it.
And Mark, before I ask for a motion from the board, I would like to extend to you the most sincere thanks for coming out of retirement and from anything else that we may have taken you from to come and help us out over the last several months. It's been great to have you sitting back in the office again and sharing your expertise with people. And you will be missed. Maybe we'll use you as a training guide.
Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. May I? Whoops.
Here.
May I have a motion to accept the policy 2.3 financial conditions and activities?
So moved.
Moved by Nick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bill Wiedemann. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no hands raised in 208, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm just sorry, Mark, that we aren't all able to be in person tonight too, so that you can see us better than you can see us on Zoom to say thank you. Approve the 2023-24 budget. I'm going to presume that that's a Tim and Mark piece.
That's correct. Patrice, could you bring that up and display that on the Zoom screen as well? Jay.
Oh, in here?
Yeah. Gotta share screen.
Sure.
Can everyone online see the slideshow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. We'll go through the budget in a general view and then have some time for questions. You could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. In fiscal year 23, the year that we're currently in right now, the budget was $4.1 million and some change. The proposed budget for fiscal year 24 is $4.829 million, which is a almost $725,000 increase, which is 17 2/3% of an increase. And we'll get to where that increase is coming from in a few minutes. But that's where we are right now. That's after going through, I think, 5 drafts of the budget.
Correct.
Where we started out at a much higher number than 4.8. And we've been able to whittle it down a little bit through some, well, we'll talk about some of that stuff in a few minutes. So the big contributing factor to the increase in our budget for the fiscal year 24 is new debt service. The voters approved by about a 3-to-1 margin renovations to the Career Center, which were really necessary, and mostly for health and safety, asbestos and mechanicals improvements and replacements. We've got some systems that are pushing 50 years old and need to be replaced. You can't continue on with 50-year-old mechanicals. It's It's just not, you can't even get parts for it anymore in a lot of cases. Not an unusual problem for the school system, but the Career Center decided to tackle it now as opposed to waiting for the worst to happen. So that amounts to a 695% increase in debt service. We still have $115,000 of debt from prior debt, but that is soon going to be paid off in 4 years. The new debt amounts to $684,000 well, not per year, but for next year. And it goes down a little bit every year after that because we're paying less interest on the principal because the principal goes down. And the new debt is basically to deal with end-of-life mechanicals, asbestos removal, and health and safety needs. There's also a $24,000 increase in health insurance, which is about 5.11%. We still don't have official word on the premium increase, but it's probably going to be around 12.5%, so that's what we budgeted for. Some districts are going 12.7, some are going 12.3. 12.5 is a good number to predict where that premium is going to be. We also have a decrease in number of staff FTEs, most of which is in the administrative realm, and we also have a little bit of dental insurance increases. So this table here shows you the differences in a different way. If we did not have the new debt, we'd be looking at a less than 1% increase in the budget, which is significant under the circumstances because I think Nick pointed out that statewide it's estimated to be about 8.5% increase in budgets for next year. So if it weren't for the new debt service, we'd be looking at a 1% increase, which is significant. So now we're taking on this new debt. It's good that we were able to control costs in other areas at this point in time. This shows you what percent of the slices of pie go to various categories. So you can see that salaries amounts to 51.1% and debt service amounts to 16.6%. So keep those things in mind as we look at the next slide. This is the budget we're currently in. Salaries make up 58.4%, and debt service only makes up less than 3% of the budget. Now, Patrice, what I want you to do is I want you to toggle back and forth between these two slides. Use the arrow keys and slowly toggle back and forth so that people can see what happens here as far as slices of the pie going to salaries and debt service. Thank you. That was good.
That's fun.
So if you would click on to the next one, please. So fiscal year 23 versus 24, as far as district tuition is concerned, again, we're going to compare what we have now, which is the right column, or what we're proposing, which is the right column, and what we would be proposing if we did not have to have the new debt service. So you can see that district tuition would literally decline by 25% if we did not have the debt service. As it is with the debt service, district tuition is going to go up about 10%. And they've been prepped ahead of time. We gave them a worst case scenario than this when I presented to the board, so this is actually less than what we originally told them that they should be concerned about. And in this slide, you can see similar kinds of information, but basically, the overall tuition is a 10% swing without debt as opposed to with debt. So really, it's not a 10% swing, it's a 20% swing. So it would decline by about 10% without the new debt, and it goes up about 10% with the new debt. And this is the tuition when included the state's contribution, which is 87% of the base. The $10,875 is the same number in either column because that's what it would be no matter what. Whether you had no debt at all or even more debt, it would still be $10,875 from the state. So that gives you an idea of where we are with debt as compared to without the new debt. A bit of good news is that these are enrollment numbers over the 6-semester average. Well, actually longer than that. This goes back to 2014. And you can see that the trend is October's higher, March is lower, then the next October it's higher than the previous October, then March is a little higher than the previous March, and so on and so on. And it kind of goes like that for the most part until about October of 2009, well, March of 2020. And then you can see that October of 2020, it no longer goes on the traditional path of going up from March. And you can speculate as to why that's the case. So we have a couple of semesters there of lower enrollment. But you can also see that as of October of 21, you can see we're back on the trajectory that we used to be on prior to the pandemic. And that's a good sign. And overall, you can see the gray trend line is actually trending up slightly. Not dramatically, but it's trending up slightly. And when it comes to the 6-semester average, next year when at budget time, you're going to be in better shape because a couple of the trailing semesters are pandemic semesters, and that'll contribute significantly to the improvement in the 6-semester average for tuition. So that'll help with tuition to sending schools, that kind of thing.
Can I ask just a quick question? The state is the one that does the 6-semester average, isn't it?
They are the official thing, yes.
Right. Are they taking into account at all the pandemic?
Not to my
impact on
knowledge.
the 6-semester average?
Yeah, not to my knowledge.
No.
They did, there was some initial talk about doing something to compensate for that, but what they ended up doing was providing a payment to make up for lower enrollments during the pandemic. So we received that payment during the last fiscal year. I don't remember how much it was, and Mark, you probably don't know either because you weren't here at the time. So,
That's going to affect us for 2 years at least,
Yep.
isn't it?
Yeah, to some degree, but next year will be a significantly better situation than the following budget year will be significantly better as far as 6-semester average.
Yes.
Because 2 of the semesters will fall off,
Right.
and that'll help a lot.
Okay.
Yep. It's a good question. Any other questions about that? All right, and our final thoughts here are, we've been able to control our regular routine expenses, been as fiscally responsible as we possibly can. As I mentioned, we'd be looking at a 1% increase in the budget if it weren't for the new debt service. And the new debt does have a significant impact, but it was important debt to have because we really needed to make those renovations before it was too late. And I think the board had decided to do the right thing and do the renovations before it became a catastrophe. Also worth keeping in mind is the old debt service does retire in 4 years. We'll be able to use reserves to mitigate that, and that'll help us going forward. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, higher enrollment is in the works, and that ends up lowering tuition. So the higher we can increase enrollment, the lower the tuition from the partner schools, and that would be a good thing as well. At this point, we're happy to entertain any kind of questions.
You said that there was a lower FTE and that it was mostly in the administrative.
Yep.
Was that a permanent change, or was that just because we couldn't fill positions?
No, that's a permanent change going forward.
Okay.
Yep. Combined a couple of administrative positions, took 1.55 FTE, I think, and made that 1.0.
Okay. But I mean, I understand that from previous conversations about the administrative stuff, but was there any other?
Yes, there was we have English that's, I think, 0.5. It was 1.0. We don't have a need for that.
It was like 0.65 or something.
Yeah, it's going to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because we don't need that right now.
Okay.
Because we're able to offer the English that's necessary, mostly for the culinary students. But there is another program that uses that too, I think at noontime for English, right?
Ideally, yeah.
So we can meet that need with, I think we have 0.5 in there. Right now, this year we have 0.2 actually. That's all we have for English is 0.2. Next year will be 0.5.
Now, ART used to have, I know Penelope worked a lot with ART. Did that change?
Yes, because Eric is a certified, a licensed English teacher, so Penelope was no longer needed to fill the, because there's an English credit associated with ART. That's how we're able to maintain that since Eric's licensed.
Got it. Other questions?
I don't see any questions or hands raised from board members online.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the 2023-24 budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Bill Biederman, do you have a hand up, or is that? No, okay.
He was muted.
It's,
I don't think you have my video, do you?
No.
no?
That's good, because it's midnight.
Alright, well, we appreciate you staying up for us.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2023-24 budget as presented. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no hands raised, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. The 2023-24 adult tech ed budget.
If we don't have any presentation related to this item, is the document there? You can pull it up, sure, Patrice. And those of you at home, you can click on the link to see it as well.
It's in the packet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you guys speak to how it compares to last year's budget? Just
It went up
curious.
$750. And the biggest change was, Jim alluded to it, in the salaries and some of the changes he did there, as well as the salary levels that were in the current year budget. And so when we projected out the salaries primarily for the director's position, we ended up at 157, 152, and at 700, I think it was $756 more than the current year.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions about the adult ed budget? Seeing no hands raised, I'll ask for a motion to approve the proposed adult ed budget for 2023-24.
So moved.
Moved by Bill Biederman, is there a second? Nick?
Second, John.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2023-24 adult tech ed budget. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Mark, the tuition rate, or Tim?
Go ahead, Mark.
The announced tuition actually had to occur last Friday, and so it has been submitted to the Vermont Agency of Education, as well as notification to all of our sending districts. And that amount is $26,910. We received a confirmation from AOE that they received it on Friday, January 13th, and that is the tuition rate that ties to the budget that you just approved. So it's a process that they require to have the board adopt the announced tuition for 23-24.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the announced tuition rate for the 23-24 school year of $26,910?
Motion.
So moved.
Was that moved by
Tiffany
Tiffany?
moved.
Yes.
It was moved by Tiffany and seconded by Steve Rooney. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I think it was seconded by Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By Nick?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, good.
Is there any discussion on the motion or questions?
Do we know yet where that puts us? Because, I mean, we were at the top in the state, wasn't it?
We were, and probably, and most likely still are.
Probably still are.
We won't know.
We're still there.
Yeah, we won't know that for sure until everybody's is announced.
Okay.
Where were we? Oh. Any other questions on the motion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Tim, who joined the meeting?
I don't,
Hi, I'm Dave Cole. I was on the interviewing committee of business people, I think, and community members. And
Oh, okay.
I was curious about that decision, but
I saw a figure come in and I couldn't see well enough from here who it was.
the timing is good.
Evening,
okay,
Dave.
perfect.
We're almost there.
May I, well, would somebody like to go over the warning for the annual meeting? And there had been a copy in board pack with my signature on it, and I want to assure people, I have not signed it yet. I can't sign it until you approve it.
We can't have access to it, it's
Yeah, I'm gonna say
not,
I can't link to it.
Hold on a second.
It is in the folder. The link may not be working, but it's in the folder.
oh, I could try the folder then, hang on.
And there were a couple of changes we discussed last Tuesday that
The link may not be correct.
Could you maybe screen share it?
Yeah.
that was changed. Good. That's not the same as what was in the board pack. It's good.
So I have a question. This came up in our board meeting last night in Addison Northwest in relation to a possible change that the legislature is voting on tomorrow, supposedly. And it has to do with how you write Article 7. I don't know if you guys are aware of that or not.
Yeah, I just saw that on the VSBA. The VSBA sent a message about that, but I didn't really understand what it was talking about.
Yeah, so it's
Simplify the language.
Yeah. So you don't have to say all of that. If they pass the law, which could happen on Friday or Monday, you can actually, you have multiple options to word that article. And in fact, you wouldn't have to actually list the 17.66% figure. So I'm just saying, we postponed our decision to wait on the legislature last night.
But the thing is once the legislator passes it, then they have to wait for the governor, and he has, I believe it's 7 days to which to sign it, and that does not include weekends. I believe is what I've been told, or maybe it does include weekends, depends on when it was passed. So, it just makes,
I don't know, I thought they were fast tracking it so school boards would be able to actually make these changes, but that's all I know, so.
I also think that this had something to do with the percentage that they required the public schools to publish had to do with equalized pupil, cost per equalized pupil. So typically you have to in the past give the increase in the percentage as it relates to the cost per equalized pupil.
right.
This represents our total budget increase. Now, we have an equivalent student number down at the bottom, which I think is, similar. But, I don't know how that, what they're writing, how that applies to our situation.
The long and the short of it, though, is that what we have here would not be problematic.
No, it wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah.
And it's what the voters are used to seeing in the past. I don't know if we gain anything by not giving this information.
I would really prefer that this gets approved so that we can include it into the annual meeting document, which is, we're trying to finish up, so we can get it to the printer. I mean, I don't see any harm in, we're not putting ourselves in a bad spot if we approve this the way it is now.
Well, this is factual.
Right.
They're not going to change.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that possibility, so whatever you want.
So it's really only a language change? That's all they're looking at? We can approve
Yeah.
this, and it's not an issue.
Yes, it's a language change. They're trying to clean up the lengthy paragraph that talks about the school budget so that it's supposedly more simpler for people to understand. But that was what the intent was on changing it.
So let's go.
So, do I have a motion to approve the board warning?
So moved.
Been moved by Bill Biederman. Is there a second to that?
Steve Rooney.
Steve Rooney has seconded it. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No, it's a board packet.
Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Patrice, if you want to unshare, please. Thank you. The internal controls checklist is,
Internal controls checklist, that's,
I think, is that what you sent me today? And I have nothing for it. I haven't got me off guard, and I was right up straight, so
okay.
I apologize, but I don't have anything for that.
okay, is that something then that we should move to next meeting?
I would recommend that.
Probably, yeah.
Is the board okay if we take the internal controls checklist and move that to the February meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second that. Okay.
Anybody, any further questions or concerns about the motion that was just made to move it to February? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. The pay schedule side letter of agreement.
Yeah, this is an agreement between the association and the administration to modify slightly the contract so that we don't run into situations where we're running payroll 3 weeks in a row. Normally it's every other week. The association saw the logic in that, trying to improve efficiencies, and we're grateful for their contribution to work on that. They actually drafted the language, which we're also grateful for. We worked through it, and it's pretty run-of-the-mill kind of side letter for the benefit of the organization.
I move to adopt.
It's been moved to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Bill Biederman. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the pay schedule side letter?
I have a question.
Yes, Christina?
Was it vetted by our lawyers? Like, was that necessary, or did anybody else look at it?
No, we didn't feel it was necessary because it was a minor enough change, and it was just a matter of taking existing contract language and paring it down a little bit to make it more efficient.
I recall we actually tried to achieve something like this in our last negotiation. I think we might have just not gotten the language right or something. We did discuss this in the last negotiation. It just probably just didn't get tweaked enough to make it make sense, so.
Yeah, in the whole scheme of things during negotiations, this is the kind of thing that often can not get the attention it needs to get it just right because of everything else that's going on with negotiations.
Yeah.
So,
Can I assume that the underlined language is the are the changes in the proposed language?
let me bring it up quick. It's been a while since I looked at it.
Okay.
It was a couple months ago. Yeah,
Okay.
those are,
So it also seems to be adding all payments will be made via direct deposit?
yes,
So everybody is on direct deposit now?
they are.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and that also improves efficiencies.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have nobody who's going to get kicked off or be forced to go on to direct deposit because they're all doing it now.
Great.
And this will mean new employees won't have a choice, which is great.
This language goes back decades where.
Oh, sure.
Before direct deposit, and they got an actual check. And so the convenience of getting a check before they left on a school break or something had merit. But those days have long since gone. And I think Tim spoke well to it when he said it's the type of stuff that kind of falls off the table early in negotiations. You don't get back to it because they're more critical items that you're talking about. Sure.
And is it not also the desire of the business office, while we're talking about direct deposit, just as an aside question, that the board members are paid their stipends through direct deposit?
Yes, providing we have their banking information.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the pay schedule side letter of agreement. Is there any more discussion on it? Or questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. I'll be in at some point and sign.
Okay. Yeah, Patrice has it in the folder, ready to go.
Okay. Possible superintendent appointment. Your board chair is kind of stuck on this one right now. And what I can say is that we have entered into negotiations with a candidate. The interesting piece is that even if the board wants to hire, the agency of ed has to weigh in. Not only do they have to give us permission to hire a new superintendent, they also have to approve a choice of superintendent, and then they put on their own stipulations of, the fingerprints, the ability to be licensed in the state of Vermont. And so I had reached out, Tim and I have been working on a contract with the candidate, and I have reached out to our lawyer 3 times now this afternoon, trying to get out of him if it is okay for us to say in public session who we are in negotiations with, and I have nothing back from him. And I also don't have anything from the AOE either. So I'm a little bit stuck here. And so, Tim, what would you like me to ask the board to do?
Well, how about if we do the business manager appointment first?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. What I'd like to do is I'd like to recommend pending successful contract negotiations, and we're very close, and clearance checks and consultation with the solicitor, to hire Rebecca Goulet as business manager for the Patricia Hannaford Career Center, with a start date somewhere in mid-February. So that's
And I believe, Tim, you sent us her resume in your Friday Bisif, it was in there.
That's correct. She has 22 years of experience in school finance and some experience in other areas as well. Someone we checked references and very comfortable with what found in that process, and would serve the Career Center very well.
May I have a motion to approve the appointment of a business manager with contingencies that has to make through fingerprinting and such?
So moved, Judd.
Moved by Judd, seconded by Nick. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I'm a little uncomfortable of voting for an appointment with the vague contingencies out there. That's kind of like approving and then carte blanche on everything. Is there any way we can, I don't know, wait till we get back all the contingencies? How long is that gonna put it back?
Well, fingerprinting takes a while. That can take months, month and a half.
If you were to specify and say, waiting on fingerprints, but the motion right now is waiting on all the contingencies, and it's not clear to yet what all those
The
contingencies
contingencies are successful contract negotiations,
Okay.
and we're very close,
are. Okay?
very close. We just have some minor language to tweak out.
Mhm.
And I wanted to run that by the solicitor to make sure we have it right.
Sure.
That's really it.
Oh, okay, and then is there anything similar to what the AOE does on the
No.
superintendent? Okay.
No.
So it's just contract and the background
Clearances,
check.
yep, that's it.
Okay, I'm a little more comfortable with that.
Yeah, I thought it might be. Yeah, that's,
Is that-
we're really, really close.
Okay, good.
Is there any more discussion or questions on the motion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed.
Thank you for that, folks. Mark has done a fabulous job for us. So grateful for his experience and expertise, especially when it comes to helping me figure out budget in the CTE. He's been instrumental in that process, and this may be the last time, probably will be the last time he joins us at a board meeting. And the next time you will see Rebecca Bouvet with us. And we'll try to get you introduced to her prior to that, if at all possible. So thank you. And now, as far as superintendent appointment, one thing you could consider is something similar to what we just did with Rebecca. You could make a motion to appoint the candidate pending AOE approval and successful contract negotiations, because as I understand it, contract negotiations for this are also very close.
As well as fingerprinting and licensure.
Yes. So my
Did Judy pick up any sort of gray area in the licensure front, Suzanne?
So when Mac and Jake bring candidates to a board, they have done all their due diligence as far as background. They do reference checks. They reach out and speak to people outside of whom they've given as references. Mac and Jake, when a board starts to negotiate, they also run the candidate's fingerprints. So they've done that. I have not heard that they've found anything. And as far as licensure, they leave that to the candidate to work through with the individual states. But I can't imagine that there would be an issue, but that's my thoughts. I don't run the state licensing board. I would not want to run the state licensing board.
May I there's no motion in front of us right now, but
Right.
for point of discussion, the community is really, really waiting for this, and this is about as close as we are as we were with the business manager. I would really strongly recommend that we do an approval based on these contingencies and announce a name. I think that's really, there's a lot of people waiting for that, and I don't think we are at any risk. If something goes wrong, something can go wrong all the time. But I really am excited about this candidate, and I think the community will be too once they hear about the announcement. So, my recommendation.
I agree with that completely.
Cheers.
Who just said that they recommend, they agree with it in the room?
That was me.
Okay.
I don't get a vote, though.
Well, and the board chair only votes when there's a tie, so, so board, you know who the, candidate is, so, may I have a motion?
I motion that we, pending AOE approval, conclusion of contract negotiations, and a successful background check, that we announce that we would like to make an offer to Nicole McTavish.
Good second.
Was that Judd, the
Judd.
second? So
Yep.
moved and seconded that pending AOE approval, licensure, fingerprinting,
Successful
contract negotiations. Did I get all of them?
Yep.
That's right.
The board moved forward with announcing the hire of Dr. Nicole McTavish as superintendent director.
With great enthusiasm. We were also super excited.
We were. Is there any further discussion, questions, concerns? Wow, board, you're so quiet tonight. All right, we'll proceed to vote. We'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. That was a unanimous vote. So, thank you, board, and believe me, I'm doing my best to get through the contract pieces here, whether I sent off a second round to the lawyers today, so. But since I'm not a lawyer, I can't write it, so, and I don't want to. We'll move on to the informational agenda. There were several reports to the board in the board folder. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything about them?
Jay, thanks for getting that newsletter out again. I sent that around.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else have anything? No? All right. I guess we'll move to policy 4.1, governing style. Who wants to take that one on tonight?
I'll do it.
Okay, Steve.
I think that this was a full and important agenda, that we moved through it efficiently, and that it was well managed. I'm looking at the time, and it's not even 7 o'clock. So not only did we get through it, we got through it quickly and efficiently. So yeah, I think great job.
Good job, folks. And executive session, I just want to tell people what we've been contract negotiating, so people are aware of it. So that's all that is about, since that's personnel. If there is nothing else, May I have a motion to move into executive session for personnel, please?
Steve Rooney.
Steve Rooney made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
John? It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of personnel. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no hands raised, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. We'll do about 5 minutes because is MCPV there?
Yeah.